Joining us now is Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Uji.
You know why I'm smiling. You look dapper in your grey suit.
Well, thanks to you. And,
again, yes, as always.
Such a look.
Those are
I
my
know.
stylists.
Yeah. You look great.
Thank you.
Tundun, good morning. How are you?
Good morning,
You know we're celebrating.
Yes.
Congratulations to you and your son.
Thank you so
really
much.
Great. He made what? Head boy. Head boy.
My
Congrats.
baby.
Good morning, Rufai.
Morning, Audrey. We shall be the head and not the tail.
Amen. And you look sharp too.
Thank you.
Good morning to you, viewers.
Yeah.
We begin What's Trending with reactions to last night's deliberation of a petition on Nigeria, which was signed by over 220,000 individuals requesting the British government to impose sanctions on individuals in the Nigerian government and police officers involved in human rights abuses. The petition, which was started by Nigerian entrepreneur Silas Ojo, was deliberated on with an opening statement by Member of Parliament Theresa Villas, who is also a member of the Petitions Committee. Her remarks, which detailed the events surrounding the Lekki shootings and police brutality, were followed by arguments from other Nigerian members of the committee. Well, let's take a listen before we take some reactions.
As the chair of the All-Party Group for Nigeria, I was particularly keen to speak on this debate and highlight the need for the UK to stand with the Nigerian people against an increasingly cruel and brutal regime. The situation in Nigeria is incredibly serious, with tragedy after tragedy unfolding on the streets in state after state, as the Nigerian government and its security forces take ever more repressive measures to end a protest movement, which has given hope to millions across the globe. The bravery of the youth-led movement will never be defeated. Today, we need to consider how the government should respond to both the movement itself and the violent actions of the Nigerian regime.
Important story. You know, we took it yesterday and I told you I was so up for the whole debate and sanction. It was over an hour and 19 minutes long, the debate that happened last night. And you could hear all of the members of the committee really register their frustration with the incident that happened with the Lekki shooting and also the police brutality. All of those Nigerians also, you know, had their own personal experiences and people who had reached out to them on the incidents that happened at the Lekki shooting. Well, we're still waiting to see or to hear from the Africa minister to know what sanction will be on the Nigerian government and members of the police force who were attached to this whole incident.
Well, we had this conversation yesterday, and you know my thoughts. As a Nigerian, I cringe from head to toe. I'm completely mortified that this has happened. It's actually very easy to avoid being embarrassed in front of the whole world in this fashion. Yeah. All you need to do is refrain from shooting peaceful protesters. If only that was the case, this will not be happening to Nigeria. We look like a demented banana republic in front of the whole world, and over what? A protest to end police brutality should never have deteriorated to this point. And while it's nice to see British Nigerians excelling in the manner that they are in this clip that you just shared, while I feel pride in them, I also feel sad, because so many Nigerians leave these shores because the political or economic environment is just so hostile. Yes, there are those who are adventurous. People will always want to live abroad and try that experience. But a lot of people leave because they have to. I was watching this, the fact that we're talking about live ammunition being used on peaceful protesters, and also thinking of the thousands of migrants that risk their lives trying to escape from this country. This is horrendous. It should never, ever come to this.
Yes.
It's really, it hurts
I mean, I understand that point also, but I also feel like the Nigerian foreign minister should respond to this petition as well.
Well, of course, Nigeria will have a right of reply. I do not imagine that the Nigerian authorities will just fold their arms and not respond to some of the issues that have been raised. And just to add to, you know, what I said earlier, one, the lessons we can take from this is that, one, you are part of an international community. What you do in your environment,
absolutely,
you can't rely on sovereignty and say other people must not show concern, because we're part of one global humanity. And that global order is governed by rules. If in any part of the world maybe in Belarus or in Cameroon, if you violate those rules, then of course other persons in other parts of the world will call you out. Two, it is very good to see these Nigerian British lawmakers are still interested in what goes on back home.
Absolutely.
It means that, you know, not all of them are disconnected from Nigeria. Even the ones that were born abroad, they still have a sense of home, what August Wilson calls home, the interface between home and exile. I think somewhere in the human subconscious, there's a sense of home and place. And it's good to see that in that regard, they still consider the Nigerian space as part of their heritage. The third point is that, which I raised earlier, is that, you know, it is also instructive that our own lawmakers here, either at the level of the House of Assembly or House of Reps or the Senate, they have not shown this kind of passion and commitment and interest. In fact, many of them, even individually, have been behaving as if they are not part of Nigeria, and they do not know that this big debate is going on about NSAS and about end insecurity in the North. Now, the other leg of it is that apart from the Lekki shooting that they talked about, which many of those parliamentarians in the UK, in that committee, referred to as a massacre, they also talked about the killings in Obigbo. They also talked about, there was also a reference to the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. They also referred to the sanctions against 3 TV stations, namely Arise News, AIT, and Channels. So it's not just about the Lekki shooting, but all of that you can put under the framework of the concern that the Nigerian government needs to be held accountable, because the whole point is about accountability, and that's why they are calling for sanctions, and that's why they are protesting about the violation of fundamental human rights in Nigeria. So it's just for government, it's a cautionary experience for government to realize that the rest of the world is watching.
Yes.
And even if you sanction people in Nigeria, or you bully people, or you call people names as part of your response mechanism, then of course you cannot do the same to other institutions abroad.
Right. Let's take a Twitter reaction real quick from Tola, who wrote, Nigeria actually needs laws that empower citizens to hold government accountable and demand specific government action in the same way the UK Parliament had to discuss NSAS in Nigeria because a specific number of people signed a petition. Our laws should give powers to the citizens. Rufai, your take on this story.
It's quite very sad that this is happening, and I'm going to be a little bit historical this morning. It's quite very sad this is happening. When you look at it, in the space of a year or two now, this is the third time that anything that has to do with a foreign parliament or Congress, we have to discuss Nigeria's issue. The first one was Shore. You remember how the senator representing the state of New Jersey had to speak up as regards that. The second one is DJ Switch having some depositions at the Canadian Parliament, and now we have this. They spoke extensively yesterday, and it's quite shocking. Dr. Abati, you raised a very coherent point as regards what our parliamentarians doing. And in case our parliamentarians do not know, what is Parliament? And I'll tell you the historical antecedents of Parliament. 1066, William the Conqueror conquered Edward Longshank, became leader of Britain, brought in French nuances into British life. 1215, thereabout, Runnymede happened. A word from France crept into the British dictionary about a group of people to speak for people that are down in society. The word was parlement. And constantly, as a result of usage and twistage over the years, the word is known to be parliament today. So if our parliamentarians are not speaking about pertinent issues, when the essence of parliament in the first place is parlement, to speak for me, then you know something is amiss. So that's the question we should ask. But what did we hear our parliamentarians do? In Lagos, for instance, Annie Macaulay, not Annie Macaulay, Senator Macaulay Ali, beg your pardon.
Mojisola Ali Macaulay.
Mojisola Ali Macaulay. What did she come out to do? Called young people hoodlums. But the same food she was supposed to share for the young people, she kept it for her birthday party.
Right.
So when parliamentarians, parlement, that are supposed to speak for me, are not speaking for me, it's shameful, like you said, Tundu, but if our parlement are not speaking here, the Parlement in the UK will speak.
All right.
And they are speaking.
All right. We'll take another story in Nigeria. The federal government has petitioned American-based cable news network to register displeasure for its investigative report on the Lekki shootings, which aired on November 18th. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, in a letter to the Vice President on Communications, Jonathan Hawkins, on November 23rd, demanded an immediate and exhaustive investigation from CNN into its investigative report to determine the correctness of the report. He described CNN's report on Lekki incident as blatantly irresponsible and a poor piece of journalistic work. Lai Mohammed added that CNN breached the most basic of the core principles of journalism, which is balance and fairness. Well, this letter is coming, at a good time. I think that was the right thing to do for the Minister of Culture to write the letter instead of coming out and saying we're going to sanction you guys and all of that. But now the question is, CNN had come out to say that they did reach out to the federal government and also to the military to ask for, clarification on some of their investigation. And they did not respond. So what did they expect to happen? Or were they expecting CNN to wait before the federal government responded? Because it took a whole month. I mean, why did they keep silent for a whole month on the incident?
Yes, if you decline a request for comments, it does not mean the story will be shut down or gagged. It will go ahead. But, like you said, this letter, I don't understand why all of the assertions in the letter were not presented and were not a part of the report. I think that would have been a lot more effective for balance and fairness, which is what Alhaji Lai Mohammed was going for. And I'm going to take you back to your jurisprudence, Dr. Abati. Corpus delicti. You do not need a body to show that a murder was committed. You actually don't. Or really, any crime doesn't really refer corpus necessarily to a physical human body. You don't need to show that anything necessarily was done. All you need is the essential elements that a crime occurred. And we have an admission by the army that they used both blank and live ammunition.
Correct.
That was shot in the air. Ergo, we can conclude that some people were hit by falling bullets.
Whatever goes up
exactly, must come down. Gravity is a law.
Correct.
So I don't understand this indignation. It's sort of misguided indignation on the part of the federal government. I think it would have been better for Nigeria, because I only care about Nigeria and our image internationally, for this statement from the government to have been part of that report, because a lot of people who do not read this letter from the Minister of Information are going to watch that report and draw really unfortunate conclusions about us. But I will say I like the fact that the Minister for Information continues to stress the deaths of the soldiers and policemen. 6 soldiers died, 37 policemen died, and their deaths must not be in vain. It's completely acceptable that they lost their lives.
Correct.
Well, I think it's a good development that at last the Minister of Information has formally stated the Nigerian position and sent a petition to the management of CNN, if only to put it on record and to draw attention to the fact that, the Nigerian government does not think that that report is fair. But twice now, CNN has said that they stand by their report. And in fact, yesterday, one CNN reporter was quoting the testimony by Brigadier General Ahmed Taiwo, when he said before the judicial panel of inquiry that the military went there with live and, blank bullets. And the lady just wrote, well, this further corroborates the story of CNN, if you actually went there with live bullets. But it's good that, Alhaji Lai Mohammed has made that protest official. However, there's something about the tone of the letter, as reported, that I found a bit, well, I don't want to use the word undiplomatic, but I think that letter could have been written differently. After the initial complaints and all of that, then at the end, one of the paragraphs there was threatening CNN. Now, I don't think that, that's the way to play the game, because we shouldn't forget that you are dealing with an international news network. I mean, CNN is everywhere. It's not as if it's a local TV station that you can intimidate. And I thought the line was saying we would have recourse to sanctions. What sanctions can you impose on CNN? I think that going forward, when all of this is resolved, one of the things that, the government media managers will need to do is how, to forge partnership to reach some kind of rapprochement, with the CNN and other international media channels and also local channels. Because if you are combative, you are fighting the media, journalists have this thing in their head that, okay, fight us, there will be another day.
Of course.
And another day, if you play into their hands, they can be very nasty.
A call for diplomacy is in place, yes.
The media, one rule there is that dogs don't eat dogs,
yes.
Maybe I shouldn't be revealing trade secrets.
I'm all in.
On television.
Yes,
but I think, there's a way in which Alhaji Lai Mohammed can engage the CNN away from this, altercation and threats and all of that.
All right. Quick comment from you, Rufai.
Wow. Let's move on to the next story.
Should we? No worries. Let's take another story still in Nigeria. Last week, the rail line connecting the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, to Kaduna State developed a breach, leaving passengers stranded for several hours in the middle of nowhere. On Monday, the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, apologized to Nigerians on behalf of the Nigerian government, the Ministry of Transportation, and the Nigerian Railway Corporation. The minister said he has informed the China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation, the company responsible for the construction of the rail line, on the mechanical fault. The minister further speculated that the trains weren't supposed to develop any fault at the early stage of usage and assured Nigerians that there are now new locomotives in place that would help resolve the issues. I mean, yes, it's great that he came out to apologize on behalf of, on behalf of the government and all of that. But the issue, this story just brings about that issue of, the Nigerian empowerment. Why do we have to always go out to source for help or to source for contractors to come fix our country? Why do they have to do that? A lot of comments on, on the story just bottles that fact as well. And the fact that maybe this rail line was not a new rail line. I mean, how is it possible that you could go and get a rail line that is old?
We need answers.
Yes.
And it's embarrassing, like you said. There's a problem with the rail line we call the Chinese.
Yes.
We have human rights abuses we call the British. What exactly do we do? It's embarrassing.
Really.
Well, let me put it like this. First, let's thank Minister Amechi for apologizing.
Yes.
I think that the government truly owes Nigerians an apology. Those rail lines were built by the Chinese.
Yeah.
The locomotives were also supplied by the Chinese. I don't know the details of the contract. But I think what we're dealing with here may well be the maintenance end of it. Now, if you have brought in locomotives, and they're already being used, is it possible, is it the case that we don't have Nigerians who can, on a day-to-day basis, in partnership with the Chinese people, maintain those trains? Because if the train suddenly broke down, what we're now hearing is that, the Nigerian Railway Corporation has now been instructed to go and invite the Chinese to come and look at it. So if there was a major accident with those trains, then somebody has to come in from China. We don't have the local expertise here to look at it. And until, somebody comes from China, nothing will happen. That particular, track will be abandoned. And that's the problem about the contracts that we sign. Although I've said I don't know what the details are in this particular case. Oftentimes, you see that when Nigeria enters into agreement with people, they will bring even ordinary plants from China or from South Korea, something that is available.
It's unfair.
Here. And we have the expertise here to maintain, some of these things. Oftentimes, these foreigners, they also abuse expatriate quota because our own people look the other way. You go to some of these companies. This morning, Rotus was talking about the automotive industry. Some of these foreigners who sell cars and assemble cars in Nigeria, when you go to their workshops, the cashier there is from China or from Korea.
Unacceptable.
And then you keep wondering, is it that there's no Nigerian who can do the work of a teller? Just to count money, you have to bring people from South Korea to come and be doing accountant work in Nigeria. So all of this is part of the embarrassment, but his apology is in order, but we'd like to see, the train fixed very quickly, and Nigerians were subjected to undue hardship. I mean, have you seen the picture or the video?
Yes, we have the video.
Of Nigerians
if you can pull up that
left
video.
there in the middle of nowhere, sitting down.
Terrible.
There was nobody that could, come around to help them.
Yeah.
We were still waiting for a rescue team from China.
We were waiting for a rescue team. Rufai.
I mean, I'm quite sad. And I'm very sad because you raised a very good point, Sundu. At this point, we should even be making rolling stock of trains and engines. If only when we had the smooth chance with our third industrial plan, the likes of DSC, Ajaokuta, and other companies, Katsina Rolling Mill kicked off. Because what are these things? I mean, what is a car in the first place that we can make? What is a train that we can make? What, is it not steel or aluminum and a rolling stock? And you get the technology is outsourced. So what are these things that we can't even make as a nation that we keep importing over and over again? Is it not smelting? If you probably go online, you will see, or you buy the patent on how to make it. Because you see, even the China that is making it, China didn't develop most of this technology. They bought the patents. Most of the train lines in China are constructed by Alstom. So it shows how far down we have gone, that China is now doing our rail line. But I remember very well, vividly, the rail line Latif Jakonde was trying to do in the 80s was constructed by Alstom. If China themselves, most of their rail lines are done by Alstom, then China is doing rail line for us. When are we going to develop this skill? It goes back to our educational sector.
Correct.
When are we going to improve our educational sector? When are we going to allow our engineers to be able to do this job? I thought there was going to be knowledge transfer on this project. I thought Nigerian engineers should be able to work side by side with Chinese engineers. And it's shocking that China is the one doing rail line for us. Nigerian railway engineers in the 60s used to be the best in the world. Those trained by the British. But what happened? We fretted away. We let those heroes die by not paying them even their pensions. We know how railway engineers and employers suffered so much in this country before they could collect their remuneration. That's what we're seeing now.
Thank you, Oji.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Abati.
So
Thank you, Apati.
Definitely.
Yes, we are. Thank you, Rufai.